All right, so we are ready to go. Good evening. Welcome to the Humphreys Elementary School Go Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Go Team. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. Any members of the public present are here to quietly observe. For members of the Go Team, please identify yourself when you speak. I am pleased to call this meeting of the Humphreys Go Team to order at 4:35 p.m. Our first order of business is to call roll. The secretary, Ms. Campbell, will now take roll.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Please respond present when I call your name. Darren Trimble.
Present. It's drawn, but present.
My apologies. Tia Barnes.
Present is Tiara, but I'm present.
Oh, how many different ways am I going to be mispronouncing people's names this evening? My apologies. Abigail Reese Kelly.
Present.
Damian Marshall.
Present.
Alexa Smith.
Present.
Orita Campbell. Present. Asha Wright. Michael Charles.
Present.
Yarkita Taylor.
This team will only be able to take official action if a quorum is present. Ms. Campbell, is there a quorum present?
Yes, there is a quorum present.
Thank you. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you via email. I'm now going to share my screen. I want you all to take a moment to view the agenda, and then we will take any corrections. Are there any changes to the agenda? May I have a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda.
A second?
Motion to approve it. Motion to approve it.
All in favor, please
I
say
second.
aye. I'm sorry. All in favor, please say aye or use your reaction button with a thumbs up so that the secretary may record your vote.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Motion approved. We will now review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes, have been provided to you. So I'm going to take a moment to pull up the minutes from the last meeting as well, to give everybody a moment to review those. Our last meeting was last year, November 30th. Are there any corrections to the minutes from the previous meeting? If there are no further corrections, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes?
I move,
A second?
I second.
It has been moved and properly second to approve the previous meeting minutes. All in favor, please say aye or use the reaction button with a thumbs up. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Motion approved. All right. We have one more motion action item. Yes. All right, so back to the agenda. Our first action item is the required budget training. We all need to complete this budget training before the Humphreys fiscal year 24 budget can be approved. We can take the time now to complete the budget training as a Go team or to watch the video. Do I hear a motion to approve this item?
Motion to approve.
A second?
I second.
It has been moved and properly second to approve this item. All in favor, please use your reaction button with a thumbs up if you are in favor of this motion. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Okay. So at this time, I am now going to go to the Ellis platform. As a Go team, we will watch the video together. However, each one of you individually will need to complete the budget assessment that follows the video. So the video is only 5 minutes. It was emailed to your email on file and posted on our website from the Go team office directly. So I did not send the email. It came from the Go team office directly. If you did not receive that email at the conclusion of the meeting, I might be able to forward that email to you. Okay. So again, when you go into the Ellis platform, you should see on your dashboard the Go team fiscal year 24 budget training loaded. Again, it only consists of a 5-minute video and then a 10-question assessment follows that. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and just play the video as a team, and then you'll all need to complete your assessment. If you need any support with the assessment, please see me directly or reach out to me.
Ms. Smith, I don't know if it's me, but I can't hear anything if something is playing.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Reese Kelly. Let me go back and make sure you all
I am
can
not
hear.
hearing it either.
Okay, let me stop share.
It just,
then I'm gonna-
Miss Reese Kelly got to her unmute button faster than I did.
Thank you. All right, I might have to do a new share and make sure that I am sharing the sound. So let's try this again.
Hey there, fellow Go team members. It's time to get down to business.
Are you able to hear anything?
Yes.
Okay.
Time to plan your school's budget. We are all here for the same reason, to improve student achievement in all of our schools. To do that, we have to be smart and strategic with our budgets. So let's get started. School budgets provide the financial structure needed to support a school's mission, vision, and priorities. Various initiatives and programs are competing for limited available resources. The budget process encourages discussions that will determine how those dollars are best spent. The district budget is funded through federal, state, and local revenue. Federal is usually earmarked for specific purposes and programs like Title I and the School Nutrition Program. This accounts for less than 10% of the district's total budget. When it comes to state revenue, there is some flexibility in how the district can spend these funds, which makes up about 20% of the district's total budget. Local revenue accounts for more than 70% of the district's budget. This revenue is generated by local taxes on real, personal, and commercial property, tuition, and payments from intergovernmental agreements like the Atlanta Beltline. As a charter system, principals have flexibility in managing school resources to meet the needs of all students. School operational funds are allocated in two different ways, through the Student Success Formula and through program-specific allocations. Most funds are earned through the Student Success Formula, or SSF. SSF is calculated using projected enrollment, school demographics, and student academic attributes. This allows the district to more closely align school funding with student needs. Using SSF, every student earns the same base amount of funding. For example, if a school's projected enrollment is $600 and the base amount of funding is $1,000, then the school earns $600,000. School demographics and student academic attributes are assigned weights, which are then used to generate additional funds. For example, assume the weight for poverty is 0.15. The base amount is multiplied by this weight and the number of students in this category. So if projections show 200 students in this category, then the school earns $30,000. Now assume the school is projected to have 45 students in the gifted program. If the gifted weight is 0.10, then the school will earn $4,500. Totals for all weights are then added to calculate the school's SSF allocation. In this example, our school has now earned $634,500. There are also programs that allocate funds or positions to schools outside of the Student Success Formula, such as special education, ROTC, and ESOL. These allocations are managed by district program managers using a methodology specific to each program. Now let's take a look at the budget process. As you know, updating your school's strategic plan and establishing your priorities is the first major step in driving the budget process. If your school's strategic plan has not been reviewed and updated, it must be included as an action item prior to approving the budget. The principal is guided by the school's priorities, which will help set appropriate parameters which ultimately guide the budget development process. An important note about budget and strategic plans: the strategic plan is a long-term document. This is usually 3 to 5 years, whereas the budget covers a 1-year period. Therefore, some school priorities may be funded in the upcoming fiscal year budget cycle, and other priorities may be funded in future budget cycles. It is suggested that Go Teams meet at least 3 times during this process. The first meeting would be to discuss alignment with your school's strategic plan, priorities, and budget allocation. The second meeting would be for the principal to provide the draft budget and receive additional feedback from the Go Team. The opportunity for feedback will allow for Go Teams to ensure that the budget is aligned to the school's mission and vision, and that resources are properly allocated to support key strategic priorities. After receiving feedback from the Go Team, principals will review the draft budget with their associate superintendent and key district leaders. The final budget approval meeting will be after this review. The third meeting for final budget approval should be in early to mid-March. This is when principals will present their final budget recommendations for Go Team approval. One more step. Please be sure to take a few minutes to complete the budget assessment. You'll find a link to this assessment in the email that accompanied this video. All Go Team members must complete the assessment as part of the budget process. All right, Go Teams, it's time to get planning. Thank you for taking on this great responsibility. And remember why we do this work. Strong schools start with you.
Okay.
Hey there, fellow Go Team members.
All right. Okay. So again, Go Team, that was the 5-minute video that precedes the 10-question assessment that is accessible in the Ellis platform. So following this meeting or sometime between this meeting and our next meeting, please review that video again, as well as take your budget assessment, a 10-question assessment. If you need any support with that assessment or you have further questions, please contact me directly via text or email is fine. Okay. Are there any questions about what we just viewed or how to access the budget training video? Okay. As a strong reminder, every Go Team member must take the budget training and pass the assessment in order for our budget to be approved. So it is very critical that we get this training completed as well as pass the assessment as soon as possible. All right. Thank you, team. All right, so I'm now going to come out of that platform and return to our agenda. We will now move on to the discussion items on our agenda. For the first discussion item on the agenda is to review our strategic plan. And so provided in the agenda, this did happen at our previous meeting back in November. So I am going to just pull that up to refresh your memory, as well as to review the ranking of the strategic priorities. If you all can recall, it was the meat of our work at our last meeting in November, and I am going to take the opportunity to review those again before we turn it over to Mr. Trimble to discuss our allocations for fiscal year 24. All right, so let me go and pull up the strategic plan. I'll probably have to stop share and do a new share. I'll just make sure. All right. So here's our school strategic plan. It is accessible again on our Go Team website for you to view. As they mentioned in the budget training video, the school strategic plan is typically 3 to 5 years. I do believe this one was a 5-year plan, so that should have been 21 to 2025. But in that plan, it just pretty much itemizes what our focus and priorities are. And I'm going to do slideshow so that we can see it a little clearer, where we have our mission and vision for the school, as well as our big buckets for the district, and how we as a school are aligning our priorities and our strategies to our overall goals for the school. So again, this information has been updated now because we do have recent achievement data from last year milestones. So we do have an update to those SMART goals. Okay. So again, this strategic plan just kind of goes into how we've been working on our plan, what are some of the things that we're doing for implementation, and gives an opportunity for us to assess how far we are coming along with our initiatives and strategies. Okay. So that's our strategic plan. Again, that is a short version of it, but our full version is on the Go Team website. So I'm going to go ahead and move into our school priorities that we ranked at the last meeting. Again, you can see them listed here on the plan. However, at our last meeting in November, we did take a minute to re-rank those priorities with us actually voting on those. So we did take action as a Go Team to vote on those priorities. And so I'm just going to make this a little bit larger so that we can all see how those feel. Okay. All right, so moving in at number 1 on our ranking for strategic priorities, improve the percent of students achieving at proficient or distinguished level on the Georgia Milestones Assessment, which is given every year in May. Reduce barriers to school attendance and decrease chronic absenteeism. That was number 2. Number 3, build teacher capacity in core content areas, particularly reading, math, and science, which are the tested subjects on the milestones. Number 4, support the social, emotional, behavioral, and mental well-being of students and staff. Number 5, recommend high-quality staff for vacant positions. Number 6, full implementation of the district intervention initiative. Number 7, implement STEM engineering and design program model that leads to continuing STEM school certification. So last year when we did write the plan, we were seeking to obtain school certification. However, we did achieve that goal, and we are looking to continue having our STEM certification, which occurs every 5 years. So we are in year 1 of that cycle. So we want to make sure that we are continuing to invest so that when our 5-year window ends, we are ready to go for recertification. And then our last priority, but it is still a priority, is to build systems to promote social and emotional awareness of students. So again, at our last meeting in November, we did take a moment to re-rank the priorities that we've identified as a school. Again, all of these are important. So I want to make sure that's clear for the Go team. All of these are important. However, we have ranked them in priority at our last meeting. Are there any questions about the ranking of the strategic priorities? Okay. All right. So with that, I'm going to stop share, go back to the agenda so we can see our next item. I have to keep stop and share, which is to look at the development budget process. So in our Go Team training video, we just saw that we do have the next 3 Go Team meetings focusing on our budget development. So as you can imagine, to develop a budget for a school for the next school year takes a lot of work and a lot of planning. And so as members of the Go Team, we have a very, very important part of that process. So I do want to take a moment to share with you how that's going to work, and so that we can take any questions or concerns that you might have about our next 2 meetings following this one. Okay. So with that, are you all able to still see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. So here it is for us as a Humphreys Go Team. Isn't that a beautiful picture of our school? So I was recently renovated. Here is the timeline for the budget development process. Okay. So our first meeting, which is here, is our budget allocations. Principal Trimble will speak after me to talk about what our budget allocations are for fiscal year 24. So here we'll get a first look at that. Again, we just reviewed our strategic plan ranking priorities, which is a requirement before we can begin the budget process. So we're in a good space for that. The next thing that will happen is that Principal Trimble is going to meet with the Humphreys School staff to discuss positions for next year. And so he'll talk to you all a little bit about what that process looks like, so that you are fully informed as we think about making sure our budget aligns to the process. Between that time, we'll have our second meeting as a Go Team, and this will be the budget feedback meeting. So the first time is where we get a chance to kind of look at it, our first look. The second meeting is when we've had an opportunity to look at the allocations. We'll hear results from Principal Trimble's staffing conferences at the school level, because there's a second component to that. And then we'll confirm to make sure that all of our priorities are being addressed based on the draft budget that Mr. Trimble presents at the next meeting. Okay. So between that time, Mr. Trimble has to go back to district office as well as work with his supervisor regarding our budget and what we've seen, as well as have additional staffing conferences with the Human Resources Division. So between that time, it's an opportunity for us to still give feedback and possibly, this is very important, have or schedule an additional meeting. So what can happen sometimes following the budget, the first look, and between the next meeting, it might be decided that we have to look at it again. Feedback might have to be addressed from any member of the Go Team, or some of the information might have changed between the time that we first looked at it, as well as what comes back after Mr. Trimble's meetings with central office. So again, between the second and final meeting, there might be an opportunity for us to schedule an additional meeting, and then we would have to actually take action to put that on our calendar. Okay, and then the final process will be our final meeting. So we're trying to get this done in the 3 meetings and not have to do an additional meeting, which is already scheduled for Wednesday, March 8th. This will be our third look, hopefully, and final budget approval. So by this time, team, everybody must have done their Go Team budget training on Ellis and passed the assessment. So that's why it's so important that we kind of go ahead and get that out of the way now, so we don't come up against the deadline and possibly be in non-compliance and cannot move forward with approving our budget, which really sets a lot of things back. So this is the timeline. I'm going to email this to you all so that you have the dates in place. But from what we have so far, we are not looking to having to reschedule any meetings or hold an additional meeting. However, that can change. Are there any questions about the timeline? Okay. All right, awesome. So let me stop share. And now with our agenda, I am going to allow Mr. Trimble to take the floor so that he can present the first look at our budget allocations for fiscal year 24. Okay. Mr. Trimble?
Good evening, everyone. We're going to go through this slideshow. I will not read it verbatim, but it is necessary for us to go through it. Can everyone see the screen okay? Okay.
Yes.
All righty. So these are some norms that the district has recommended. Only members of the team may participate in the discussion. We will follow the agenda as printed, and welcome every member to contribute, especially in these next 3 meetings. We definitely need everyone's feedback, and we will respect all ideas and good intentions. So the data review, we've done that, and these were at previous meetings. So I think we started the year off with a kind of a data review. We looked at the strategic plan, and we've done that actually on 2 meetings. But the last meeting is when we did the reordering of our priorities. Ms. Smith has kind of gone over the budget parameters, and right now, we are at a point where we are looking at choices. And so I'm going to give the allocations, what we have earned for fiscal year 24, and then we can talk about some choices. But the second meeting is really when we'll get into the meat of that. Okay, and so this is how kind of a snapshot of how the budget process works. And as you all can see, this is our initial budget session. So we'll talk about the budget, how much was earned, and where we stand. Okay, and these are just some questions that'll guide our thinking this evening. Okay, we just took a look at our school strategic priorities, and these were the re-ranked priorities that we came up with in November. Okay, again, we just looked at those. Okay, and so, okay, let's definitely look at this slide. This budget represents an investment plan for our schools. The budget recommendations are tied directly to the school's strategic vision and direction. The proposed budget for the general operations of the school, and I'll give you that figure in just a second. And then the investment plan accommodates the student population that is projected to be, and again, I'll give you those figures in just a second. We'll look at all of those projections. What I did want to do, but I really couldn't because our budgets are still locked. I wanted you to take a look at fiscal year 23's budget versus fiscal year 24 to kind of compare some numbers. Both of them are available to you, but I could not put them side by side for us to take a look at. So we'll look at one and then we'll look at the other, and we'll do those quickly. Okay, and so this is how that looks. This is not our budget, but this is how it looks. And so we will get to that in just a second. Another part of our budget is CARES funding. Okay, so in addition to the general fund allocation, our school earns CARES funding, and the CARES funding is really comes out of the COVID-19, and it's our academic recovery that Atlanta Public Schools is a part of. And so we also earned money with CARES funding. Thing about CARES funding, and again, we'll talk about it a little later, is this is the last year that we could use it. So in years past, we have been able to, you know, roll it over to the next year, roll it over to the next year. However, again, this is the last year. And so that creates two challenges. And we'll get into those when we talk about CARES. In CARES funding, we are able to purchase anything related to any of the 6 buckets that you see there. So if we can justify the expense being in either of those, then we can use CARES funding for that. Okay, so it says what's next. I think Ms. Smith kind of went over a little of these. So this is our initial meeting. You know, she kind of went over those in detail. And so that's just another format to look at it. Okay, so now let's get into the budget allocations. Like I said, we will take a look, just brief look at last year's, because I do want you to note some things. So this is last year's budget. And the couple of things that are, I guess, of most importance is the enrollment that we were projected. We were projected to have 190 students. Currently, we have 239. Yeah, we have 239 currently, but we've been as high as 260. And when I quote these figures for enrollment, they do not include pre-K. So we have 20 students in our pre-K class right now, but again, the 239 that we currently have, and we've been as high as 260, those do not include pre-K. Okay, so we were projected to have 190 students, which would have been, if that was the case, a decrease of 31 students. So with that 190 students, we earned $3.6 million roughly. Okay, and so now I'm going to go to fiscal year 24, but if you can kind of just take a mental snapshot of that. Okay, so this is this year's budget. And so now I'll kind of go over each line item briefly, but please, if you have any questions, make sure that you ask those and I can do my best to explain them. So this year.
I'm sorry, Mr. Trimble, may you make it a little larger? Can you do the plus
Okay.
sign? So, thank you. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, so this year we are projected to have 241 students next year, and that isn't more in line of what we have now at 239. So that's more in line of what we have. And you see the change in enrollment, 51 students. That's a change in enrollment based on their projections for this year, but it's not a change in enrollment for us because our enrollment's kind of been steady. I think we brought up in a previous meeting how We lose kids and gain kids all of the time. So our enrollment is always in flux, but it always hovers around between 240 and 250. And so as you can see, this year we earned almost 4.3 million versus last year was like 3.6. Okay, so Atlanta Public Schools, and I didn't hear it in the video, but Atlanta Public Schools uses SSF funding to fund our schools, and SSF is Student Success Funding. We are one of the, I wouldn't say few, but one of the school districts in the whole country that uses this type of funding to fund the schools. Most schools and most school districts, they have this base weight. You've earned this much money and that's pretty much it. However, Atlanta Public Schools and the Student Success Funding accounts for a lot of different factors when we talk about budgets for schools. Okay, so let's take a look. We first get our funding per grade level. And as you can see, kindergarten is a 0.6 weight versus everybody else at, well, at least our primary grades are at 0.25. So we relish getting our kindergartners in because that's where the money really comes in. It's more than double for kindergarten than it is for any other grade level.
Is there any particular reason why it's weighted like that?
Well, one of the reasons is kindergarten students have to have a para.
Okay.
So they have to have a paraprofessional. So that's one of the reasons. And then ideally we do at Humphreys, there are more materials needed in kindergarten as far as texts, manipulatives. So there's just more needs in kindergarten.
Thank you.
Okay, again, the student success formula also takes into account poverty. And so out of our 241 students, 202 of those directly certify for some type of public assistance.
And might I add, Mr. Trimble, about the poverty allocation in Atlanta Public Schools and other districts that are charter and kind of follow this student success funding or formula? That's a great thing because Georgia does not account for that in its funding. So just so you're aware of that piece, in Georgia, where we receive some state funds from the Department of Education or the state, they do not account for students that we are teaching or serving that are in poverty. And as we know, that brings its own host of challenges with trying to educate the whole child. So I think that is a very good thing that Atlanta has invested in that way for school budgets.
It is. Okay, the next line is EIP. REP is for middle and high school, but EIP, we have 65 students that are tagged in EIP, 28 students special education, which it does include our MOID units, moderate intellectual disability units. We have 2, K through 3 and then 3 through 5. Gifted, we actually do have 1 gifted student, so I need to check on that. Then the gifted supplement. So those are 12 units, I would say 12 units that that we gain funds for in promotion of our gifted program. So again, we only have 1 gifted student, but in order to promote the gifted program, we get a gifted supplement. ELL, English language learners, we have 17 of those students, and you see that weight. And then we get, this is another something that is unique with SSF. We get a small school supplement. So a lot of the staff that we have at Humphreys is really only allocated for schools over 450 students. So the state of Georgia only funds assistant principals, counselors, social workers, a lot of those positions for schools that have over 450 students. Well, we do not have 450 students. However, the SSF formula does give us a supplement because we are such a small school.
So that's another, thank you, I'm sorry, Mr. Trimble. So I just want to add that kind of explanation for the Go Team. So that's another important investment that Atlanta has made into small schools. Because in the past, what could happen with that is that you would have half-time positions for positions in school that are very critical for whole child. So as Mr. Trimble mentioned, that would be like a part-time counselor, a part-time social worker, you know, a part-time nurse, things of that nature that we know are critical for whole child. So the fact that Humphreys is a smaller school, and we love that about our school, we think that's one of the unique reasons that families choose our school. We don't have to suffer for that. And so we are grateful that the district does invest in that way, and so that everybody can be full-time. So thanks.
So let's get to our additional earnings. So this is the, for the SSF allocation, we had about 2.5 million. Now we get some other funds, and let's go over those. So every school in Atlanta Public Schools has a signature program. So right now, all schools are either International Baccalaureate or IB or STEM, and now we think Carver will be STEAM. So Humphreys is a STEM. STEM is our signature program. And so for our signature program to operate it with Fidelity, we get $208,000. This is a huge increase from last year, where I think we got like 119,000, something like that. And so this will be very beneficial, and it's going to allow us to do some things with our signature program this year. Turnaround, you see 0. That is because we are not an official turnaround school. We did not make any state lists. We did not make any district lists. So we're not an official turnaround school.
And can I say, Mr. Trimble, for explanation? So turnaround means if your school has been chronically failing for 3 or plus years, then the state identifies you on a list. And this list says, you know, publicly, because that information is public knowledge, that your school is a school that consistently fails as measured by the milestones or high stakes testing. So we are happy to see the 0 on our allocation for turnaround, because it, as Principal Trimble says, it means that we are not listed on any school's list or the district's list of needing additional support or training. That basically we are doing the best that we can to educate our students. So I'm happy to see that 0. So that's just me.
Yeah, definitely. Our next pocket of money is Title I. And you see there we have 174,000. Just something briefly, I probably could have led with this, about how schools are funded. So 45% come from local home taxes. Okay, so school, 45% of that is local property taxes. The other 45% or another 45% comes from directly from the state. And then 10% is from the federal government, and that's our Title I. So that's where we get the Title I. And Title I is typically students or schools that serve predominantly minority students and predominantly poor disadvantaged students. So that's how you get that, and you get that extra funding. And so we're always grateful for that. And then the next line, you see the holdback. And what happens with APS budgeting, which is a good thing, they will hold back a certain amount of money from you, because if we don't make those enrollment projections, so we were projected to do 241 students, let's say we have 220 students. What used to happen is the district would say, well, you have 10 teachers, but you only need 9. So we're going to take this teacher and we're going to spread her at another school where they need 1. What happens now is they don't move the actual people, they move the money. And so holding back some of this $17,000 helps us that if we don't make our enrollment projections for any reason, we won't have to lose a person, but we would have to lose money. And so that helped. Okay, so the next line is Title I Family Engagement. So this is Ms. Sumlin, who is our parent liaison. So this is her little budget so that she can host parent engagement events. And at those events, she can have, it's really flexible on what they can do. She can invite speakers. She can buy certain incentives for parents for coming, decorations, light refreshment. So that's her little money that she's able to promote family engagement. Okay. So field trip transportation. The district gives us $9,000, which is fantastic. We probably won't spend that much, so we will be able to use some of that elsewhere. But that is just fantastic that we do get that much. And then the last item here is district funded stipends. At Humphreys, we use our stipends for our school improvement team. So we have our GO team, which is our governance organization, but we also have our school improvement team that's really a think tank, and it helps us to come up with ideas and strategies for school improvement. Okay, and so our additional earnings was roughly 1.8, and our total allocation is 4.3, and that matches our 4.3 at the top and 4.3 at the bottom. So at this time, I will entertain any questions. We will not get into staffing for this one or any non-staffing expenses because they're still so fluid. However, there is one thing that I will leave with you all after questions that I definitely need everyone's input on. But any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, again, both fiscal year 23 and fiscal year 24 are in our drive for the GO team, and you all can look at them. If you do have any questions, please don't hesitate to email me, call me, schedule a conference, whatever is your pleasure. Before I end up, do I have another agenda item, Ms. Smith?
Yes, under information items is the principal's report.
Okay, well, this will be good for that one.
Okay.
So one of the things that I am pondering, and I would not do it without GO team input and support, is shifting from visual arts to a STEM based enrichment course. And so what that will look like is right now, students have what we call at the elementary school level is specials. So some of those specials are PE, music, band, orchestra, Spanish. We have a math lab. We have a writing lab. And we also have visual arts. My thinking would be to eliminate visual arts and implement a STEM lab in that specials rotation. What that would consist of is, right now we are budgeted for a half-time art teacher. We would, again, eliminate that position and actually hire a signature program specialist who could run our STEM lab and run our entire school STEM program. This will be somewhat controversial, only because, you know, a lot of times when schools look to improve, the arts are the first thing to go. And so we don't want to take away all of our arts. We would just be kind of shifting visual arts to STEM. Now, some of the pros with this are, I think the days of, you know, drawing on paper and pencil and making things with construction paper, those days are kind of gone. If we shifted visual arts to STEM, we could do more things like digital arts. We have the equipment now. We have iPads that the students can use. We have MacBook Pros that the students can use. We have all the equipment now for our students to really take visual arts to another level. And they could do it in the lens of STEM. And so that is my thinking. We don't need a vote tonight, but I do want you all to think about it. Think about it and weigh the pros and cons. And we can have a discussion about it our next meeting. And I can take any questions that anybody might have about that. Ms. Campbell, go ahead.
Would this include a makerspace component?
So that's the thing. I think we can have flexibility. I mean, we could definitely do that. We would collaborate with our new signature program specialist, but we would have so much more flexibility by shifting it to a STEM than right now at visual arts. So we could definitely do that. Matter of fact, Ms. Campbell, let's start entertaining some of those questions and looking at that maybe in March, because this part would be over by then. And if the GO team and the school improvement team feels that that's a good idea, we'll go with that. And then we're going to make sure that everything that we need to make it happen, we'll go ahead and purchase it. So
Yeah.
yes, it can.
Makerspace is kind of like science and art all together, very creative, encourages originality, and I think would be a very good STEM-based substitute for the visual art to have that component. We also have the Decatur Makerspace. People to draw on, they're one of the premier makerspace organizations in the United States.
I have a question. So with the creation of the STEM lab, and since STEM will include math, are you getting rid of the math lab as part of one of the specials?
No, we still have math lab. We'd have math lab and STEM lab.
Okay. And I definitely can be helpful with some of that STEM conversation. I'm a ED of a STEM nonprofit organization, so I can be helpful with pulling together people and programs. So.
Oh, sounds good. Sounds good.
Mr. Trimble, I heard you mention, and this is just for clarity for the GO team, that currently our visual arts class is part-time, which means that students would only be receiving that class once per week. But with a STEM-based maker space, inclusive of visual arts, and that being a full-time position, are there possibilities for students to cycle through those classes more than once a week?
We could definitely look at it. So my initial thoughts are, yes, one time during the specials rotation,
Mhm.
and that second time during their science during the week.
Right, okay.
So that is my initial thoughts, but we would have to iron that out, because I really also want to have math lab twice a week. So
Okay.
we have to see. But once we get an approval, then we will definitely play with the schedule and see what's best. But I think it's easier to do the STEM lab than math lab, because STEM lab, like I say, we can definitely do one specialist rotation and then one time during their science block.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Again, I look forward to the conversations. Please, we don't have to wait till February. If you have any ideas or anything, please email me, call me, and let's discuss. Thank you, Ms. Smith.
Okay, thank you, Principal Trimble. And so I'll go back to our agenda items so that we can stay on track. And I think we are there. Give me one second. Exit out of this. So share, sorry. Okay. Screen share. Okay, so thank you for that information, Principal Trimble. I'm sure after we've all had an opportunity to review the documents again in relationship to the allocations for fiscal year 24, we might have additional questions for our next Go Team meeting, which will be the budget feedback meeting. So at that meeting, it is anticipated that Principal Trimble will share the actual budget with us, as well as hear some feedback and updates from school-based staff and conferences. So our next agenda item was to go over the principal's report. I believe Mr. Trimble just did that piece. Mr. Trimble, did you have any additional items for that report?
No other items. Things are going well at Humphreys. No pressing concerns. And so look forward to our next meeting.
Okay, thank you. All right, and our next informational item is the required Go Team training. So I know I sound like a broken record with that, but with the Go Team, in order for us to remain in compliance with the district, we must take our required Go Team training. So there's 2 of those in addition to the budget trainings. So in order to be a member of the Go Team, you have to take trainings. And so you should have taken already your new Go Team member training, as well as your self-pace kind of course. So there's like a live session that's hosted, as well as a self-pace course. And then the third one is your budget training. So again, we went over that earlier today. That can be accessed through Ellis. Ms. Reese Kelly, I am still working on that piece for you. I know we reached out and emailed back and forth, and we spoke at curriculum night last week, just to make sure that that's actually happening and that the platform is ready for you to access. Mr. Charles, if you don't mind, were you able to complete both parts of your Go Team training? You're on mute, Mr. Charles, if you're talking.
Yeah, I completed one of them. I need to complete the other self-paced, I believe. I completed the video, the viewing the video or viewing the live presentation. That I got.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you. So if we could just make that a little bit of our priority within the next month or so that again, we don't come up on our February 8th meeting and cannot move forward with approving the budget that we've all worked so hard and invested in and given feedback on if we have not met that compliance point. So the Go Team office is the person responsible for the training. I wish they would just hand it over to me so I could control that for us to make sure that we could do it. But that is managed by the district. And so unfortunately, I have to wait on them to get that information. But if you have any outstanding trainings that you need to complete, please make sure you do that. All right, we're going to go ahead and move forward with our announcements, and we don't have any announcements. However, I have to remind you of our next Go Team meeting, which is already scheduled for February 8th at 4:30 p.m. via Zoom. And this will be the second of our budget meetings. So at that meeting, again, Principal Trimble will present that first look at the actual draft budget for fiscal year 24.
Miss Smith, is that
Yes,
meeting
ma'am.
the 8th or the 15th?
Oh, I have it on the 8th. Ms. Campbell, can you verify the date? I may have misspoke or mistyped that.
Yes, let me just take a look at our website.
Okay. I could actually go there too. Let's see. Great question, Ms. Kelly. Let me verify. Oh, yes, that is the 15th. You're correct. Yes, okay. That is the 15th. Thank you, Ms. Reese Kelly.
I just
have
wanted to
that
make sure I had it on my calendar so I don't put anything in that time.
Ooh, no, you're awesome. Thank you for catching that for me. So that is the 15th, and I'll make sure that it is listed. Okay, so I did put it right on the website. Okay, so that will be via Zoom as well at 4:30. So I look forward to seeing you all there at that time. Okay, so with our agenda items is next on the list, public comment. Ms. Campbell, did we have any public comment responses or notifications?
I have not received any.
Okay,
And
not
I
a problem.
don't believe there are any members of the Republic currently on the Zoom meeting. So
That is correct. Thank you, Ms. Campbell. All right, so we have now reached the end of our agenda. Is there any additional business at this time? May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
A second?
I'll second that.
All in favor, please use your reaction button with a thumbs up to say aye. Okay. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions, please say abstain. Okay. Meeting is adjourned at 5:37 p.m. So I am going to stop the live. Okay, thank you, Go Team. Again, if you have any questions of me or Principal Trimble, please feel free to email, text, or schedule a conference. Come up to the school if you so choose, and we'd be happy to support you. Okay. All right. Thank you, team. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, everyone.